if you were to give a couple Hall of Fame tips, we've been doing a few of those in our office, because we did it, right? If you did Hall of Fame, you should be able to talk about it. What are a couple tips you would give for people that are watching about writing Hall of Fame?
Well, we all know that to write Hall of Fame, you've got to serve at least 400 families. And in order to do that, it looks like a daunting task. But if you break it down monthly, okay, uh, just take that 400 families and divide it by 12, and then take that number and divide it by 4, okay, because there's 4 weeks in a year. What you're going to find out is that it's a much smaller number. Okay, you need to get it probably about 8 to 10 families a week on average that you are serving. Okay, and if you can do that, then you're going to end up being just fine. Now, what I have found is that I know that on my run days, I've got 5 run days, and if I want to serve 10 families, I need to write for at least 2 a day. Okay. Now, if there's a day that I only write 1, then I know the next day I need to write 3. And if there's a day that I write 4, then the next day I know that is a bonus day. Okay. And I can actually be ahead. Let's say that I only write 1 day. Then the next day I know I've got to write 3 to make sure that I'm there at 4 after 2 days. So that's the way I've done it. I've always played the numbers and try to make it work in my favor, but always wake up every morning knowing what my daily goal is in order to get the weekly goal, to get the monthly goal, to get Hall of Fame.
Well, I love it. And tell me a little bit about your schedule. Okay, somebody's watching this; they're brand new, and the whole purpose of doing any podcast really is just I always like to say affect one person. Hopefully, it's multitudes, but again, one person matters. Somebody's going to say one day, "Hey, Robbie, I heard this," and that's why we do it, right? So, what are some things
Right.
with your schedule? When do you get in the office? Are you on Zoom dials? How important is that to you? What are some things that you do? You are on Zoom. I already know the answer because he dials first at 7:30. I appreciate that leadership.
Okay. So just to let everybody know, I'm dialing at 7:30 Monday through Friday. But don't think you can just get up at 7 o'clock and that your mind is going to be functioning correctly 30 minutes later to actually get on a call and start making calls and booking appointments. It just doesn't work that way. So about a year ago, I was bad out of shape. And you can go back and look at videos that we've done, Dave, just a year ago. And
Sure.
I was basically twice the size that I am now. And uh, I ended up getting a personal trainer, and he liked what we were doing so well. He actually came down to the convention. He said, I think I'm going to get my life insurance license. He did. So now not only is he training me, but he is also in this business in the Rise Up Agency, the Family First Life Rise Up Agency. So what I do is I get up about 4:30 in the morning. I'm in the gym by 5. Okay, I work out for about an hour, and then I'm back. I shower. I read the Bible a little bit, and then by 6:45, I'm out the door, and I'm heading to the office, and I am in the office by 7:15. Okay, and then I'm making my calls by 7:30. Now, the Zoom calls that we do on Mondays and Thursdays, I do take that first hour. And usually within my first hour, I can book anywhere from 2 to 3 appointments. Now, do the math. If I'm doing 3 appointments a day, 5 days a week in that first hour, that's 15 appointments right there. That's half my appointments in the first hour of each day, Monday through Friday. Okay? So that's 750 appointments right there that I've booked in a year. Now think about it and do the math of the number of people that you can actually end up protecting just by getting up a little bit earlier. Now, I remember when I first started this business and I was up in the office there in Roanoke, and like you told everybody, Dave, I didn't have any money. I was living in my car. Okay, it had gotten that bad. I had painted myself into a corner, and it's kind of dangerous when you get a man that likes to compete backed into a corner, because what's he going to do? He's going to sit there and he's going to die, or is he going to come out fighting? Well, I came out swinging. Okay, and so I watched you and I was like, man, he gets up awful early to be calling these people. That doesn't make any sense. I'm sure they all get mad. I'm not going to start dialing until about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Little did I know that the older folks, they get up early, and if you call them early, they know it's not a telemarketer. They know it's not a telemarketer if you're calling them real early. So I started doing that. I started patterning everything after Dave. Dave was a mentor of mine. Especially those first 5 months when I was just there. Whatever Dave was doing, I was going to do it. Dave's one of the best in the business, guys. Okay, and there's a few of them out here like Grady Polson, Zach Twardowski, Trey Honeycutt. These guys, they're Nick Aiella. Okay, of course Sean Mike. What I'm going to tell you, if you're new coming into this business, you need to find yourself somebody that's been there and done that with Family First Life, and then go mimic what they're doing, because what they've done has made them successful. And if you will just do what they're doing, you're going to have that success too.
But maybe some things to help people, and then talk about maybe even the transition to where you're at now.
Perfect. Yeah. So when I first came into the business, really I was trying to figure it out, and I was just not very. Really, to be honest, Dave, I thought it was going to be easier coming in here, and I didn't really expect the hiccups on the phone when I first got started. The first month I really didn't dial much, and I spent a lot of time just driving around and not really doing what everybody before me had told me to do. And it really took me until April, and when my back was against the wall, and I was like, all right, get out of your own head and just listen to what everybody's telling you to do. And that's when I would go out in the field, set 30 appointments a week. And then, getting into the houses and doing my first real 100 in-home appointments really, really cut my teeth very fast in this world. I did have some experience before of being in people's homes and, presenting myself at the kitchen table to sell them, whatever they needed for construction repair services. So I had that little bit of, prior experience, but it was totally different going in there with a service that they can be provided, and you can know that in 20 years when they need it, it's going to be there. So I really just shifted it from going from more of a transactional sit down to more of getting to know the person, getting to know the human being on the other side of the table. That entitled with the massive action, 30 appointments plus a week. That's where I was able to protect more than 20 families in the first month of April of 21. And then really it was just adding fuel to the flame. And getting that work ethic down and getting your schedule down, and then really putting very intentional hours when you're working. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm working now. There's no other distractions. Just get out of my way. So then June, July, and August last summer, I challenged myself to run as many appointments as I could, and then tallied all up. At the end of the summer, I had run over 360 in-home appointments, right? Yep. And then, so through that, my numbers have gone, it was 40 families, 50 families, 60 families in the field. But at the same time, my wife's seen how much time I was away from the house. My wife's seen that we had just moved from Texas to New Hampshire, and we didn't really know what was going on. You know what I mean? And then she was like, hey, I understand you're trying to do this, but you being gone 10 o'clock 4 nights a week is not just going to work. So, and that's when virtual started coming out, and that's when telesales really started to hit out. So September of last year, I challenged myself to do more on the phone in the first couple of days of the week and still get out into the field, on the weekend. So the first week it didn't work out very good, the first couple of days. But then on the Thursday of that week, I went out in the field and I crushed it. And I was like, whoa, what am I doing? And then my wife's like, it's Friday night, it's 8 o'clock, you're not home. What are you doing? And I'm like, oh, guess I'm not doing this. So then the next week, I focused a little bit more in the beginning of the week, and I was like, okay. And I had made my first sale. I did my first Zoom close. I did the first one over the phone. I was like, all right, I got some momentum. And then that weekend going out into the field, I didn't do quite as good, because I wasn't as focused. I was like, look, I already got that done. I don't need to do this as good. And then, I kind of was like, I just shot myself in the foot. And then that third week was when I shot myself in both feet and really just kind of fell flat on my face. And what it was is I wasn't focused. I wasn't being intentional with my time. So I challenged myself again. In the last week of September, I was able to issue more in the first 3 days of the week over the phone than I was able to do out in the weekend. That could have been my focus was off. Hey, I already did this. My Thursday wasn't as hard dialing. You know what I mean? So all of those factors could have played into. So anybody who's transferring now, just whatever you do, do not tiptoe around. Just go full force. If you're gonna do 3 days on the phone, do 3 days on the phone. If you're gonna then get into the weekend, like be focused and be intentional and get out there. And then really, the month of October was just that, figuring it out, spending hours and hours of reading scripts and listening to videos. Ryan Reynolds stuff, like he's the one he did a video with Grady. I rewatched it the other day because it was a year ago, like 2 days ago, and I watched it. I was like, that's the video right there that said, I can do this. If he can do that, I can do this. What's so different? You pick up the phone, you call someone, and you project that caring over the phone. You know, so October to December last year, we were in New Hampshire. It was snowing. I knew that the winter was going to be tough. You know, so I needed to make sure that I can continue this high level of production over the phone. You know, and then I ended up closing out the year almost at 350 families. I was a little disappointed in myself because I knew that if I didn't, you know, tiptoe around in September and October, I would have hit Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. So, you know, rolling into the beginning of the year this year, that was my goal, was to be at, you know, that Hall of Fame level before the last quarter of the year. And, you know, if I didn't I went off the gas a little bit a couple times, you know, and if I didn't do that, I would already be at Hall of Fame, and I would be one that would hit it in 8 months.
Where are you at right now?
Right about 340.
Okay, where are you gonna be
families
this month?
Yeah. So that's you know that's just the thing here is that, you know, perspective of that, looking at it like how much sit down and think about how much you've done in the past 8 months, and like stop beating yourself up about these low times. Like, you know, I can't say enough about it. Like, you just need to have that even when it's a heartbeat, you know, it beats, then it goes back to where it's at. Beats, goes back to where it's at. No matter what it does, it always has that flat line. So I vision myself doing that all day. If I get emotional, calm down. Let's if we had a tough spot and someone doesn't want to give me their bank information over the phone, I'm just, you know, call the next person very quickly. That's how to get out of that. So
Taking action does cure. Maybe Eric, you could share a little bit about your in-home and maybe how you get in there and what you do to kind of set the stage, and then maybe a couple things that you've ran into and how you challenge it, and then I'll try to give you some things that I might say.
Yeah. So, you have to remember, and Sean, I mean, everything that I learned from someone else, and I'm sure Dave with someone. I mean, this is just a copy and repeat business, right?
Yes.
You know, I do not. I'm 50 years old now, right? I started this thing when I was 48. I didn't want to have to, like, you know, run forever. That wasn't my vision or goal with this. My vision and goal was to not only replace my W-2 income, but be able to control my schedule. And like Dave, I don't mind working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. There wasn't the amount of hours, it was when I was doing it, right? So when I found this vehicle, then I could say, okay, hey, I get 168 hours. I'm going to work my 80, 90 the way I want to, but not miss ball games, parent-teacher conferences, practices, recitals, volleyball game, whatever the deal is, right? So like Sean says, when someone clicks on something on social media, or when someone fills out a form, or sees a video on YouTube and reacts to it, they're interested in the idea of life insurance, right, Dave? So whatever, now their interest could be a 1 out of 10, it could be a 10 out of 10, but they're interested in the idea of life insurance. And then we acquire the lead, right? And then we reach out to them. And when we get them on the phone and they accept our call and they accept our dates for appointment and they let us in their house, the only thing that is going to screw that up is you, right? So they're interested in the insurance. They answer the phone, they set a time, they let you in, you're at the table. Now, if you don't help them, it's your fault, right? So, you know, I think you have to let your ego go, you know, or you have to let your pride go. My secret weapon was, you know, I'll be truthful and honest. My secret weapon was Mike Schroeds. And every phone, and you guys can't call Mike on every single home because his phone will have to change numbers. But I called Mike on every single appointment I was on. Did Mike recruit me? No. Did I join Mike's agency? No. But he was my secret weapon, and I love calling him. He just put customers at ease. And now that FFL has thousands of agents, right, and thousands of agency owners, we all have that person in our life that we can reach out to. Just at the time for me, it was Mike. We just connected, right? So when we get to so I think the control part starts on the phone. Okay, Dave? So when we're on the phone and we're setting the appointment and we get past those first 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds, now we're in control, right? If they try to take control back by saying, hey, I'm not interested, I'm all set, I already got it covered, I'm not available, I'm busy, I'm working, I got kids, blah, blah. Yeah, perfect. And there's tons of training out there on how to get that control back, right? And everything's a yes, yes. So I'm out there Friday. They have me dispatch out there Friday and Saturday. What's a better day for you and Mary? We're busy both days. Well, thank goodness you said that, because I'm really packed both days too, and we're so far behind. They actually have me out there on Sunday. I typically get done with church around 12, between 12 and 2. What time are you typically home from church? Just assuming that they go. Oh, we go to church on Saturday. We don't go to church. Perfect. That makes my job even easier. Is 7 a.m. good, or is 11:30 a.m. better? I mean, it's always a yes, yes. You're always in control, and you gather that control on the phone, especially when you're tying it down toward the end, right? What color is your home? Where should I park? Street or driveway? Should I go to the front door, side door, back door? Should I ring the bell or knock on the door? Is there any big dogs or gates I should be ready for? I'm going to be driving a white SUV. I'm 6'5" and I don't have a single hair on my head. You'll know it's me when I arrive, right? So you're in total control on that call. And if you're taking control on the call, when you get to the home and you're in the door, shoes on or off, and you're looking for the table, you're in control. So I think it starts on the phone, and when you have that control set on the phone and you're giving them a confirmation number and you're telling them that that you're not going to have a lot of time. You only need 5-10 minutes to show them what they qualify for and answer any questions that they have. We have 12 more appointments right there in ABC County. Again, all these things, that psychology of the sales, psychology of the appointment set, Dave, gets us where we need to be. So when we do get to the home, it's all business, right? You don't go to, if your back hurts, you're not going to the doctor to talk about the ball game. You're going there to figure out why your back hurts and you want to get it fixed, right? Mm-hmm. So, that doctor-patient relationship's got to go in as soon as you get into that house. And then when I get into the house, and here's a lead I'm working right now. This is all I need. I mean, I got my backpack with my tablet device on it, or whatever. But when I go into the house, this is all I need, and it's me. It's a piece of paper and it's a table. That's it. Right, that's all I need. Because if I can't, get this handled, I don't need all the other stuff. Right. So, so I'm not gonna unpack for the weekend. Right, like I'm moving in. That's just not my style. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I am gonna have, and I have it right here because I bring it to all my appointments. I mean, I have my credibility worksheet. Right. Yeah. I have all my worksheets that I'm gonna work with the client on. But I don't need this right now. What I need to do right now is I need to figure out why they filled out the form. I need to get back to that day when they clicked, called, filled out, whatever the situation was, and what they were feeling at that time and why they filled it out. Now, that might have been 5 days ago. It might have been 5 months ago. But I need to get back to that time when they filled out that form to figure out what was going through their head on why they felt they needed it at that time. Did they just go to a funeral? Did they just read an obituary? Did they just see something on the news? Did something just happen to their mom or dad, or a high school buddy, or whatever? I mean, there's a reason why they clicked, called, filled it out, right? So I need to get back to that point and then build the foundation up from there, really leaning heavy on the beneficiary. Because if I'm sitting down with you and your wife, Dave, it's not about you, it's about your wife, right? You filled out the form, but I don't really care too much about you. I care about the beneficiary, because that's the one that I'm going to be connecting with, when God forbid you pass away, right? So, I'll kind of pause there, and that's kind of how I set the stage and build it from there.
But could you talk about maybe some basic things of structure that you did that helped you hit Hall of Fame? Like when you dialed, how the appointments look, that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I mean, I was in field for 19 out of the 20 years, right? So I've just gone, telesales here in the past 3 months, and there's definitely a big difference between the two. Um, but when I hit Hall of Fame last year, over 400 families protected, the structure that I had, and I'll talk about this because I think a lot of new agents miss this piece of it because they think you've got all this past experience that you're just going to come over here and you're going to start hitting home runs, and that wasn't the case, because I'd never worked off of leads, I'd never set appointments, never really sold life insurance before, so it was a totally different ball game. So what I did, like on Sundays for my first 3 months, I mean, I would dial for 3 to 5 hours every Sunday, to kind of get that little edge, slight edge on other folks, but also to get a little slight edge on myself to kind of have some victories for me when I came into the office on Monday. And then I would dial all day Monday, however long that took to set up. 16 plus appointments on Tuesday and Wednesday, which were in the field. So whether it took 8 hours or 12 hours, which was pretty typical when I first started because I was just so bad on the phones, so bad at calling leads and setting appointments. But then also on Thursdays, same deal. That was also an office day as well. Spend however long it took to set 16 appointments for Friday and Saturday. So whether that was 8 hours or 12 hours, and that's exactly what I did. And then just start all over again on Sunday. So I mean, I wanted to have a fast start, and I wanted to hit big numbers straight out the gates. I mean, I had to. I was the only one working, at the time. So, had 3 kids to support, so I didn't have an option of not coming out of the gate strong. But yeah, I think that's where a lot of new agents miss it. Is they try to look for the shortcuts and they don't put the time and effort in. But then also they don't see everything that I did to be able to have quick success out the gates, and the time and the effort that I put in working. I mean, literally 7 days a week. Not full days, 7 days a week, but still putting in work 7 days a week for my first 3 months or so.
Yeah, and what Todd's saying is like he was either on the phone, maybe talking to an agent in front of a client, and on a weekend, let's just say he was either maybe some Saturdays he was running business, or a Sunday afternoon he was taking a call from agent. That's what I'm saying. We get to a place where your agency's growing, you can literally run your business from your phone. So the work looks a whole lot different than maybe some of you are looking like. You're not building houses or anything. It's not physical, it's all mental, really. It's just being there and encouraging people, things like that. What are some things that you said on the phone, like out of the gates, like when, because I know you and I didn't overthink it because it's just how we're built, but what are some basic things that you learned on the phone to say, not say, that could help somebody who's just kind of watching this once it gets started, and, anything that you would give, any tips?
The big thing that people coming from, whether having experience on the phone or just having sales experience, I think the big thing that kind of took me, well, 2 big things that took me back. One was being monotone, not being salesy. Hey, Dave, how you doing? None of that, but being more like monotone and all business, but not the peaks and valleys when you're calling the leads. But then also something that I think would be different for a lot of us is just the dial structure. I would do the 3 rounds. I would call all my new leads one time through. That was round one. And then round two, I would call them 3 times in a row, which was definitely new for me. I was like, wait, I call them 3 times in a row, and that kind of weird and that kind of strange, because I was looking at it from my standpoint. Like, I wouldn't want somebody calling me 3 times in a row. But we have to imagine, especially if we're calling on final expense clients, I mean, these are folks that are middle class and lower middle class, and these are folks that have been making the wrong, not always, but most of them have been making the wrong decisions in their life a lot, some of them consistently over and over throughout their entire life, hence why they don't have anything in place when they're 60, 70, 80 years old to take care of their final expenses, like most people should, already have
Crazy.
something like that in place. So two sides to that. One is, I mean, these people are filling out, everything that they can online, mailing everything that they can back in. So I mean, they're getting blown up. So by calling them that second round 3 times in a row with different ring variations, kind of sets you apart from those telemarketers that are out there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's round two, and then round three is again calling them 3 times in a row, and then on that seventh time that you call them, so that third time that you're calling them on the third round, that's when I would leave a voicemail and send a text message and stuff. After I called them 7 times throughout the day and stuff. So it's just different. And but I mean, I'm not one to overcomplicate it. People. I don't come up with new systems. I don't create systems. I take systems that are already in place and people are having success with, and I make it my own. So that's
Yeah,
always
that's good.
my you know.
Huh. So the one thing you do have to be very confident in the home, even if you don't know what you're doing. The minute you hesitant on things, you definitely like right there you lost the sale. So you have to be very confident. You have to have um, you have to overcome objections properly, without being rude, but being direct. Don't be afraid to challenge your clients. There's certain things that a lot of people are afraid to do that I had to overcome and do it myself, right? Um, and I really think that a lot of people could do this if they put the effort um, in being direct with the client without being afraid of being kicked out or afraid of the client being mad at them because it's common sense. I mean, like the agent when they call and be like, "Oh, I think the client likes me. He likes me a lot, and he said that he's gonna buy from me next week when I know." Like, I had to break it to you, sir, but they don't like you. As simple as that. It's just, you can't be friends with your client. You have to keep it professional, you have to keep it business, you have to be very direct, you have to overcome their objection properly and make sure you're confident with what you're doing and make sure you're confident with what you're saying. And you're not just sitting there and hesitant on everything you're trying to say or trying to think on how to overcome objection because that's when you lose the client.
So you had to go through a lot of time to get to that point, right? It wasn't like the first time you went in, it was like that, right? It was through
True.
a lot of activity. Now you've done so much more, obviously, so you're obviously super confident. What are some things that you say to set the table? So to overcome objection before they even come. Could you give us some tips on maybe some
Sure.
things you said as you sit at the
So
table?
some of the things I do is, Mr. Client, can I have a bottle of water, please? Right? Um, I'm just trying to see their response, how they respond. Second thing I do is, I throw a couple of jokes here and there, and I don't throw jokes for anything. It's the same jokes I throw all the time. But what these jokes does for me, it actually help me get the client to, um, what the word I'm
Relax a
looking
little
for,
bit.
like relax, like give
Yeah.
them a little confidence, give them a little trust, right? So, and what also helps me feel the client out, if they're like have sense of humor or if they're not or anything like that, right? So I throw sometimes a jokes like if they're bald, I'd be like, hey, I guess you and I we use the same barber. And they start laughing, or if, like stuff like that. Throw like or I guess you're using Head and Shoulder like me, don't you? And just like I throw little jokes, and
I
at
love it.
first, yeah, and I just show them that I'm sense of humor. I'm not just a robot sitting in there following steps and doing whatever. I'm just a sense of humor. I'm just giving them a little something to laugh at. Then eventually I get down to business. I just let the client know, hey, listen. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna get back to what I'm here for because I'm trying to. I have 9 families trying to help. I really enjoy the conversation with you because I am building a report with them, by the way. Forgot to mention that. So I build
Mm-hmm.
a report first, but then I let them know I'm gonna get back to what I'm here for, and then eventually, when I was building a report, I already figured out a lot of things about them, right? Because we're having conversations, right? So I'm assuming what their why is. I'm not asking them what their why. I'm assuming based on the conversation we had, Mr. Dave. I assume we're doing this protection today to make sure that your both kids can keep a home paid for free and clear in the event of your death. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I actually just throw it at them. I'm assuming what we're doing it for. I'm not asking them because if I'm asking, they kind of try to, throw a little bit BS and put their guard back up again, right?
Mhm.
But when I'm assuming they figure out that I already figured this out, right? But the third thing is, when you ask questions to your clients, not ask question you already know the answer to. Certain thing like when I'm building a report with the client, I'm building a report because I'm getting all my answers out of that report. I already know exactly all the answers for my questions. Now, when I'm asking the client, I already know what the answer is going to be. It's just like the detective when they ask questions, they already know the answer, right? Kind of same mentality. And just
Yeah.
take control. The guy who asks questions always wins. So because you're controlling the conversation, you're leading the conversations.
You mentioned challenging earlier. What would be an
Yeah.
example of that?
Example of um like I share a couple of things with them, like, hey, Mr. Klein, like last night, I sat down with this wonderful woman, right? And she had her guard up a little bit. She had no idea what the appointment is about, which obviously you and I we both know that's a BS because we told her on the phone what the appointment is about. But in
Mm-hmm.
general, I showed up. We sat down. We went over the the thing with her, and she didn't think that she needs it because she had something through work. And I told her, ma'am, I had to break it to you, but the one through work you don't own, that's considered group insurance. You don't own anything that is your employer owns it. They can get rid of it anytime they want. The minute you quit, retire, fire, disappear, that insurance is gone. You're not going to have that insurance anymore. So that's one thing I basically said to her. And then eventually I told her, ma'am, no offense, but this is a matter of life and death. Okay? She giggled. I'm like, I know it's kind of funny now, but when you die tomorrow, it's not that funny. Okay? So if God forbid, if something happens to you today, tomorrow at least you're covered. Here's certain thing that I explained to her. I told her it's not a matter of if you're gonna use this policy, it's a matter of when you're going to use it. And my job is to make sure that when you two kids call me and say, I'm gonna, call me that tell me that you passed away, and I'm be there and help them out. Okay? So at this point, since you don't have any coverage in place because your work is not a kind of coverage that we look at, I need you to grab your checkbook. I need you to grab your ID. We can get this started right now for you.
Love it.
And obviously, that's what she did. So that's what I meant with challenging the client. It's not like, hey, can I have your checkbook, please? Or I think I need your writing account number. You're just sounding hesitant. It's like how you gonna get paid if you're not willing to ask for what's really proper to get this policy through? I mean, it's your business. You gotta ask to get paid for your work.